Hey everybody, welcome to episode 56. Today's episode, I don't have any visuals to show you. This is gonna have to go all screen stuff on my secondary screen to show you. This is my second part, or it's not really. The first part wasn't really technically a first play. This is like the continuation of my Warhammer 40,000 video. I saw that a lot of people liked that video, so I thought, okay, well, maybe it's a popular subject, so I think I'm going to follow up with that. So I think I left you off last time with, obviously, Rogue Trader, the 1987, the initial release for Warhammer 40,000, and that first set of Space Marines, and I don't think I got the Space Orcs box set, I think, until 88, I'm pretty sure. Because I know it was summer, and I got the Space Marines in the fall, so this would have had to have been summer of 88. So let's just say that the first video was the beginning part. That's up to the end of 87. So let's start with 88. So essentially, I don't think I mentioned it, but the last thing I had was my sister. I told you my sister ended up picking up that box set of miniatures of Space Marines from Alcove Hobby Shop down on Woodward in Royal Oak, because they had sent back, UPS had sent back the one that I had ordered COD from that company in California, which, by the way, he ended up calling me because I left him my number, I had my address and stuff, and he said, hey, what's going on? Why was it sent back? And I said, it never came. And he says, well, you guys tried to deliver it 3 times, but like I said, I never got, unless my mom, the only thing I can think of is that I was out doing something and my mom got the slip and she ignored it because she didn't know what it was. That's the only thing I can think of. But I didn't get the box set through them. I ended up getting it. I discovered a place. This is right around winter time. I remember this vividly. So this is a good place to start. I discovered a place called Alcove Hobby Shop on Woodward. Now, I didn't normally. My other buddy who used to live down there with his dad for a while, he knew of this place. I didn't know about this place until like late 87 because, like I said, I primarily just went to Joe's Hobby Shop in Rochester, right across from the high school. I mean, I was aware that there's hobby shops in other cities. Like, I remember going up to me and my mom and her friends went up to Holly, and we ended up going to, I think it was called Bobby's Hobbies, I think was the hobby shop up there. So I knew there was obviously other hobby shops that sold miniatures and stuff like that. But I remember I kind of did the tactics I did with my trying to find Transformers as I went through, and comic books, was I just went through the yellow pages and just kept looking up hobby shops, and then I looked at every single one that would say hobby shops in the area, in the county, Oakland County, and I started calling them. And eventually I called a place called Alcove Hobby Shop, which is no longer there, but it was down on Woodward, and I called them up and I said, hey, do you guys have Warhammer miniatures, Citadel miniatures specifically, I think I mentioned. You have Warhammer 40,000 miniatures and Citadel miniatures. And he says, yeah, we got all that stuff. I went, really? He says, yeah, we got a bunch of it in stock. I said, what do you have in stock? He goes, off the top of my head, he says, we have a lot. He says, we have a couple of spinner racks of the blister packs. I was like, what? He says, we've got a couple of books. He says, I think we've got the Warhammer Fantasy role-playing game, which came out before 40K at the time. Which I vaguely knew of because they had the main book at Joe's. It was a $50 book in 87, so it was hard to get back then because it was so expensive. Really thick, too. But he said, I said, do you have any of the 40,000 stuff? He says, I think we have a couple of the box sets. I go, oh, did you have the Space Marines box set? And he says, let me check. So we went and checked. He came back. He said, yeah, we've got a set. We got a few of them. I said, hey, can you put one on hold? And he said, sure, give me your name and your number, and so my sister at the time, she had just got home from University of Michigan. She just graduated that spring, and so she was living with us, with my mom in the trailer there for a brief time, and she ended up working with my mom. And my mom worked vaguely down there, and sort of, kind of, and my sister ended up getting a job, out of college, just till she figured out what she wanted to do with my mom at this company. I can't remember what it was called. But anyways, she said that, oh, well, I'm right down near Woodward. I said, can you go to this hobby shop down there? My sister's like rolling her eyes, of course. I said, there's something I want to pick up that's down there, but I want to get down there. She says, can you pick it up for me and bring it back? So she said, sure. So I gave my sister the money, or those were $20 box sets at the time. And I think I gave her some extra money to get primer. I wanted specifically Rel Partha's Partha primer because I was buying the Partha paints at the time at Joe's Hobby Shop. And so I sent her down there. That plays into something. Just like it's a memory I have. Is that remember that primer? Is I sent my sister down there. I called the back. I said, "Hey, my sister's gonna pick it up. Her name is Sheila. Blah blah blah." And then she ended up going down there and getting the box set. And then I was just like anxiously waiting. You know, it was winter, so it was dark early. So it was dark by the time she came home. And she had the box set, and I said, "Did you get the primer?" She says, "They didn't have Partha primer that you were looking for." She says, "But the guy suggested this is a better primer." And I was just like, even if it was a better primer, I'm so used to wanting specific, hyper specific on things. But I said, all right, fine. So I had this primer. And the reason this primer is a big deal is I've never bought this can of primer ever since. But this primer had a distinct smell. I can't describe it because if you smell aerosol primer for paint, you probably know what I'm talking about. It smelled different than Partha primer. It smelled different from Tester's primer, or they didn't have the Citadel primers out. None of the Citadel paints really started coming out until, I think they were out, but we didn't get over here in the States till maybe 89, 90. So I said, okay. So she brought the set in, and then I went through. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I got the guys. I knew they were plastics. I knew they'd be on sprues. And so I ended up putting together a bunch of them that night. And they seem so big. Because, compared to a Rel Partha miniature from Dungeons & Dragons, these 25 millimeter miniatures just seem so huge. And I remember I ended up spraying them in my bedroom, which I did a lot of painting unventilated in my bedroom. It's probably why I'm a little nuts today, is from all the fumes of paint that I've smelled in my day in a non-ventilated bedroom in a trailer. Just how we rolled back then. Safety was kind of a foregone conclusion at that time. So I ended up spray painting them in a shoebox, just like I saw in like a picture somewhere. Somebody spray painting them in a shoebox. Although their shoebox was outside on the grass, It was winter, so I wasn't going to go outside and try to paint. And then, so anyways, I had a bunch of them all primed. I think I primed all 30 of them, I think, came in the box. And I set up the ones with flamers, and I set up the ones with the rocket launchers. I set up the sergeants, without the helmets, and with the power gloves. So then I started, I didn't paint them right away. I remember I started painting them over a slow period of time, and I painted them with Partha paints instead of, I think a combination of Partha paints and some Tester's paint, the flat Tester's paints. So let's end it at 87 there, right? So fast forward to 88. I still been going to Joe's. My sister, I ended up asking my sister if she would take me down to the Alcove Hobby Shop so I actually see it one night. She said, fine. I remember this thing, it was snowing, because it must have been early, in the year. It was snowing. I remember going down there at night. I remember she had this E-Timer in her car. She had a 1987 Ford EXP, which I ended up actually getting for my first car. Actually, car that I owned, because my other one was my dad's that I used. And so, I remember they had this thing called E-Time, and you could time something. I remember she goes, I'm E-Timing you. You can only be in there for, half an hour. So I went inside, and it was kind of a scramble. Guys, I got half an hour. I got to see everything I could possibly see. Stuff I've been obsessing about for the last year. And then suddenly, there's this rack of all these miniatures, and they had all of the Realms of Chaos blister packs. And I was trying to stay focused on Warhammer, but I got distracted with the Realms of Chaos. I just couldn't take it. There's just too much. So I ended up getting a bunch of I think I spent $30, which is a lot back then, $30. Remember, these are $3 a pack. So I got 10 blister packs with 2 figures in them a piece. So I got a lot of dudes. And the other thing I found, though, sitting next to the magazines was a stack of White Dwarf magazines. Now, I knew of White Dwarf magazines. I've seen them at Joe's. I saw them at Fireside Bookstore, but I really didn't. I was still looking at Dragon magazine at the time. I didn't really know what White Dwarf was. And anyways, the guy says, "Oh, you like the Space Marines? You know, the Warhammer 40,000 stuff." I said, "Yeah." He goes, in that pile down there is I think it was the first appearance when they first mentioned the Warhammer 40,000 in White Dwarf magazine, which is a magazine from the country where it comes from England. And I also vaguely knew that, but I wasn't 100% sure. Actually, no. At that time, I knew that when I first learned of it through Dragon magazine. I didn't know it was British at first. I didn't actually. Once I got the book, I ended up figuring out it was British because I had all the addresses and stuff. So I got the. So anyways, I said, "Oh, how you doing?" I pulled up the magazine. I'm going to pull up a PDF of that magazine here. First, let me go to here. I'm going to pull it up. Should have had this up already. This was the White Dwarf magazine in question, and it had obviously the cover of Rogue Trader, which is also the cover of the Space Marines box set right on it. And it's funny because it already had come out. So remember, I've got that October issue of '87. Got that October issue of Dragon magazine. This I think is like August or in the summer of '87 when they first September '87. Because issue 93. So this had been out already for a little while, and it was laying in this pile of other White Dwarf magazines next to it. And I guess this was at the time when they would rip off the covers and send them back. And anyways, he said to me, he goes, those are for sale there. And I go, oh. He says, yeah, otherwise I'm just going to rip off the cover and send it back and get credit for it. He says, but otherwise they're for sale if you want those. He said, I was like, oh, I gotta have this. And so I ended up putting back one of the things, or he gave it to me like, it was $2.50 American. I think it was basically the price of a blister pack. I think he gave it to me like $1 or something, or whatever I had in my pocket. I don't think I had to put a miniature pack back. I think he ended up just giving it to me for whatever I had left. He just wanted to get rid of it. So, anyway, so I gave him my money, and I think I went over the half an hour e-time, which of course my sister was like, just the things a kid has to go through to enjoy anything back in the day is just, anyways, I went back and I went home and I tore open these pack of these miniatures and stuff, and they had to put them on their bases temporarily. I didn't want to glue them down yet. And I set them all up to see, which ones I liked. I remember distinctly sitting at that drafting table I had and put the overhead light. Because I remember the lighting, and I remember them all sitting on the desk right there. And then I had over, all my Space Marines are all in a little collective party over on this side of the drafting table in the corner of my room there in the trailer, which is kind of dimly lit anyways. But I had just the light on, from the desk, kind of like this, set up. On the desk, and I'm looking there, and I'm like, oh god, these are really cool. So I started looking through this magazine, and of course it had, it did go over, it had more than just the one that was in White Dwarf as far as, but I had mostly seen most of these pages, so this stuff was all in here, these middle pages, but this stuff was all in the main Road Trader book, which I had, but I just still loved seeing the stuff. And there, I was hell bent on these guys. I wanted to put together this squad of Blood Angels. I just thought those were the coolest. I loved how he had the brown and tan camouflage, the red gloves and boots. I loved the one black, like lieutenant guy or whatever, or corporal, the standard bearer. I didn't even know how to make, and they didn't have these at the time. Actually, I think this came from a Realm of Chaos set that they just converted over, I believe. But yeah, so this stuff was in that magazine, and of course there was the ad again, in that book. So I was just, and that's when I started learning more about White Dwarf, and I started seeing all these pictures of people playing games, and this guy won this sword, and it's just like, I really wanted to be a part of this, but this really, for the most part, didn't really exist. Well, definitely didn't exist in 9th grade when I was in high school, but even at the college, It might, the Order of Leibowitz at Oakland University, this stuff was going on, but, it was so hard. I didn't end up learning about that until just recently after that. And they pretty much, White Dwarf was the Dragon magazine of Games Workshop. It was primarily all Games Workshop stuff. And then I started seeing all these other guys, and there was those guys again, and then, and here was the listing for these guys. I was just like, oh my gosh. Just blowing my mind as a kid. So then, I think it was the front of this magazine. This is what I'm talking about. The address. The reason that's important is I went in and found the address in this magazine. I'm just trying to find out. I think it was right here. Subscriptions, overseas distributors. I don't even know what I was a dumb kid. So I really didn't know what I was looking for, but I ended up finding an address. It might have been the overseas distribution. It was for the magazine. It wasn't for Games Workshop. Oh, no, that's right. No, I remember now. I was looking for it in here, and then I was like, oh, maybe I should just look in the book. And I found an address for Games Workshop, something, Nottingham Drive, in, where was this? Was it Nottingham? Whatever. It just sounded so, King Arthur-y and, Robin Hood-y. Nottingham. What? Oh, this is so British. Oh, I was totally loving it. I remember I told my science teacher in 10th grade that I wanted to move to Great Britain just because I hated America so much and I wanted to live where it's rainy all the time and there was all this cool stuff that I liked. And she ended up telling my counselor that, and my counselor told my mom that, and then they thought I had mental issues and all this other. It was crazy. Anyways, I wrote the company. I wrote them this really long, stupid letter on graph paper, and I didn't know how to send things overseas. So I took it down to the post office. It was the old post office at the time. And I asked them, I said, hey, I said, do you guys, how do I send this to England? And he said, oh, you got to get an international reply coupon or some other crap like that. And so it was more than like, $1. It was like $2 or $3 to send this letter overseas. And I was okay. And in this letter, I was total dork. I'm just writing like my whole. I kind of like how I do this videos. I just rambled on for like 6 pages of handwritten, all capitals, because I was so used to drafting class, writing all capitals on this piece of graph paper and writing it off and talking about my experiences with gaming and how much I loved it and all the things all the imaginative things that it invoked in me. And I was trying to write a story. I was telling them this whole craziness. This is insane lunatic manifesto. I'm surprised they're just thinking that this guy's gonna go up and shoot up a what do you call it? Shoot up a gaming convention or something, because it was just so crazy. I wrote him this thing, and then a couple of weeks later, not that long later, I get this package in the mail, and I'm kind of perplexed. So I was like, well, what is this? And it's a catalog. I've got a copy of that, because I'll show you where I found the copy too. I got this catalog, which was the 1998 Citadel miniature catalog. They sent me the whole catalog, and it was thick. It was about as thick as the Rogue Trader book. And the cool thing about it was it was individual sheets, and they all had hole punches in it. This was the type of stuff they did. This was the type of catalogs they would send to stores, so they could put them in their Rolodex of all their catalogs. Remember, this is all pre-internet. And that's how they would have the catalogs, because they'd put them in this huge binder Rolodex, like 3-ring giant binder Rolodex, which Joe's had one. I know Alcove would have had one. And I was like, I got the catalog that they sell to the store. And there was a letter in there, handwritten too. And it's just a little letter. It was handwritten. It says, "Oh, we love the story. We're glad you love our stuff. Here's a catalog. This should point you in the right direction," or something like that, to finding all of our products. Check your label local game stores. And I think they sent me out a Xerox in there of it must have been an index or a directory they had of all the local shops from my address, and Alcove was like the one circled. They said, oh, they're the best ones, go to Alcove. And I was like, oh, that's real cool. And so, anyways, I don't know who, if that person's still alive who wrote me the letter, thank you if they ever see this. But anyways, I got that, and then I started pouring through the pages. Now, it was so cool because it was literally a catalog, and it talked about the bases. It talked about the sprues. You know, here was some Cybermen from Daleks and Cybermen from Doctor Who. I was like, they have Doctor Who miniatures, and different shield sprues you could buy, which actually I kind of sort of knew because they would give you a couple of shield sprues in those plastic shield sprues in those Realms of Chaos blister packs that I had. Dungeon Quest? What's Dungeon Quest? What are they? I didn't know what any of this stuff was, and it was just blowing my mind seeing it. I was like, oh, there's the Space Marine sprues, you know. Oh, they had Citadel. Like I said, the paint started eventually. Joe's Hobby Shop actually started carrying these too. They eventually started having the Citadel colors, which again, I must be obsessed with my olfactory nerves, but Parth paints had a specific smell. They also had a specific taste because I had a pair of jeans that I had paint all over the side of the thigh because this is how I paint. I dip in the paint, and then when I want to clean the brush, I eat the paint off the brush and I wipe it on my jeans until it's clean, and just keep wiping it on my jeans, and I go back to paint, dip another color. So I had this pair of jeans that had paint all over the side. I used to wear them to school, and people used to think I was a lunatic. This guy's a nut. So I had a distinct taste and also if you left part of the paints out for a little while and to put the cap on them, they'd get this film over the top. And I didn't like that either, but they had a specific taste to them. And that, like I said, there's that smell of the primer, which makes me think of those Space Marine box sets. There's the taste of Rel Partha paint, which made me think of painting with those paints. So when I finally got a few of these colors from Citadel Colors, they had a specific taste as well. Like I said, nobody ever checked in my bedroom to see what I was doing. Once in a while my mom would check in on me, but who knows what I was doing in my crazy, man cave. I was painting these miniatures, spray painting them indoors with no ventilation with toxic paint. I was eating the paint. I'm surprised I'm not like the women who used to paint the radium or whatever. I'm surprised I don't have cancer now from all the stuff that I've ingested or taken in. But anyways, so I got these paints eventually, but I didn't know about any of this stuff. And then it's like, oh, this is just I'm used to thinking of Dungeons and Dragons, obviously. There's a whole list of fighter miniatures. And I was like, I want him, I want him, I want him, I want him, I want him. And I was writing down all the numbers, right? I want him, I want him, I want him. Tons of fighting guys, all these armored guys, and they have Lords of Battle, Barbarians. There was one specific one I had that I really liked. Actually, no, he was a pit fighter. It's called Pit Fighter, but he must still be in the fighter section. Oh, it's this guy right here. He's right there. Number 6. On his blister pack it said Pit Fighters, and it was him and another guy. I don't know who the other guy was. It was basically just ripping off Conan. It was just Conan stuff. But yeah, there's that guy. And then I started seeing horses, and I was like, what is this? And then I didn't realize that there was a game prior to Warhammer 40,000 called Warhammer Fantasy. And then I learned about that, and I was like, oh. And obviously you use a lot of your Realms of Chaos guys were specifically for that. And I had, so part of that collection of dudes that I ended up getting down at Alcove Hobby Shops, this guy was my favorite right here, number 14. He was my favorite, and I remember I painted him specifically zinc, which was like a greenish yellow, almost like a weird color from Tester's. I used a Tester's paint on him. Tester's flat zinc. I painted this guy, so he had like this green color to him, because I think I saw in a book, I think I was actually copying him from one of the heavy metals or something I saw had this guy in it, or from an ad from Dragon Magazine, and he was colored that green, so I kind of copied that. I had this guy, which I think this guy and this guy, 15 and, well, it makes sense, 14 and 15, yeah, they came in the same blister pack. I had this guy, so I think he came with this guy. I don't think I had this 12, so I think it was 8 and, or no, right here, no, that's guy right there, yep, I had that guy, sorry. So at 10 and 11 I had, at 14 and 15, I had 18. I think I had these two. Yeah, I had these two guys. I had this guy, which I believe came with. I want to say it's him, but I don't think it was him. I think it was him. Yeah, it was him. Actually, no. Well, let's flip the page because I know there's another one, but it's more of these guys. Most of the guys I had, because I like the big armored guy, like the Chaos Warriors. I think that was most of them. I think maybe maybe I had all of these. I had most of this page in that one trip. You know, like I said, I think I bought 10 blister packs. And then I don't think I had any of these guys, but there was this Necromancer guy. I remember I really liked this Necromancer again because I learned about what's a Necromancer, and I had a couple of these Necromancers. I think they're still Realms of Chaos. I'm just looking for them here. I see. I had him, and I must have had him too because he must have came in the same pack. I had him. I had him. I had him. Again, I also got a few of these later. Oh, I definitely had him. I remember sitting on the living room floor in the trailer, and I had taken a milk crate, and a piece of wood and made a table, and I had attached a light to it that would come over, and you could use it. And I would sit and watch television, sit on the floor in front of this milk crate, and use this milk crate table that I made to paint. And I remember painting the gray, dry brushing the gray. The wolf skin thing that was on his back. So I definitely had him. And again, I don't think I got him in that initial burst. I think I ended up going back down there and got more. And I remember, I remember what it is now. There was in high school, there were some older kids. He was a senior when I was a freshman. He had a brother who was a sophomore. These two brothers. And they were like all into punk music and everything, and they're all into they're like borderline skinheads. And I told them, I said, "Oh, there's this really cool stuff. You like British stuff? There's this really cool hobby shop. It's got all this British stuff down in Royal Oak." And I remember them because the older brother drove. He had an Isuzu Trooper, and I remember them driving down there. And we went to this hobby shop, and I was just looking for a reason to get down there. So I talked about all this British stuff that was there, and they're like, "Well, what's all this British stuff you're talking about? Where is all this stuff you're talking about?" I think they realized, he just wanted to ride down to the hobby shop. So I conned these guys into taking me down there, and I remember buying a whole bunch more. And I remember I brought a few of them with me that I painted to show them or whatever. Which these guys are pretty cool. I mean, they're really nice brothers. And they're cool. They were like cool kids. Like people liked them. Actually, the older brother looked a lot like Kevin Bacon. Imagine like a Kevin Bacon punk rock kid, and he was like a cool kid. So I always wanted to hang out with them because they thought I'd be cool too. I'm not seeing that in those Necromancer guys. I know they're Realms of Chaos. I don't think they were called something else. Oh, here they are. They're right here. There's this guy. I had this guy. This guy was one of my favorites. I had him, I had this one, I had this one, I had this one, I had this one, and they must have come with these familiars. Or no, maybe the familiars are in a separate pack. I don't know if I had the familiars. I had him, there's one other, him, I had him, I want to say it's this, oh no, I definitely had him. I want to say it's this guy. I know there's another guy who was holding his hand out like that guy. Sorry, sometimes you get tunnel vision here. It had to have been one of these guys. Maybe it was that guy, just different angle I'm thinking of. Like I said, I mean, even though it's been almost, it's been over 30 years since over 30, almost been 40 years since I've seen these. You're staring at these things very close for a long period of time, so you really memorize the details on things, especially, and you see them in catalogs, and like I said, I obsess over this stuff. So there's no doubt that this stuff kind of gets burned into your brain, and you'll never forget it. More of these Realms of Chaos. I think maybe the Pit Fighters were in Realms of Chaos. I don't really. They just said Pit Fighters. But I think maybe they're back with the fighters. Okay, so the other thing I found was going through here was, I'm coming across, okay, right here, where's the first, not the Whirlwind, where is it? I'm looking for the Man Mangler. Yeah, so you get these Chaos guys, Chaos Renegades. It almost looked like I guess what became the Chaos Space Marines. The Chaos Space Marines from the newer version of the game. Um, there's these war engines, and actually I'm going to show you a really useful website if you're into this stuff. But okay, let me go into the dwarves. I did have a few dwarfs eventually, but I wasn't huge on the dwarfs. I think everybody goes through their dwarf phase where they kind of like dwarfs, but me, it didn't last for very long. But what I'm looking for I'm getting into the elves. I really like the elves, obviously because I love the Eldar. The Beastmasters, or the Animal Keepers, they call them. Like I said, this stuff just blew my mind as a kid, and I started seeing this catalog. I was just like obsessed with it. I need to get a copy. Oh, I got a copy here, but I mean, I'd like to have I guess I could just print all these pages out. I'd like to have that book though again, or that collection of stuff again. Okay, so here we go. This is one. Remember this I'm going to finish out this, and I'll talk briefly on this bolt thrower. Just remember bolt thrower. Archers. We're getting into orcs. Now, I did go through my orc period. I was obsessed with orcs. So we should be closing in on it here. Orcs and goblins. Here it is right here. Okay, so there was an ad, I believe it was in Dragon Magazine for this. It's called the Man Mangler. And I just love the name, the Man Mangler. It was this like catapult-looking crazy thing that had like these spiky shields that would come down. It didn't move, but that's essentially what it would do. And it had all these cool faces, like these goblin, like almost orc or ogre heads, like painted on the front of it. I was just like, that stuff blew my mind. And so I was like, oh, I want this set. And I saw it in the magazine. I said, oh, they got the set. So I got back on the phone with my buddy from California, the one that I kind of screwed last time with that last box set. And I was hoping he didn't remember me, but he remembered me. And I said, hey, I got the 88 cats, the 88 Citadel miniature catalog. And he said, oh, you do? I said, yeah. I said, I know the what do you call it? He mentioned, he says, this is the kid, that ordered I remember, this is the kid that ordered the Space Marines that didn't pick him up. I said, yeah. And he goes, I said, that was an accident. I didn't mean to do that. And then I said, can I order some more stuff? He says, I think he was reluctant, but he was like, yeah, what did you want? And I said, well, there's a set in there called the Man Mangler. I said, do you have that in stock? And he goes, let me check. And he says, no, I don't have it, but my distributor has it. I can get it in a couple of days and send it to you. And I said, oh, could you do that? He's like, all right. So he sent the Man Mangler. I remember it came on a Saturday morning, which is weird for UPS back then. I know they do that nowadays, but back then I don't think UPS delivered on the weekends very much. It came on a Saturday morning. My mom, she used to do permanents. There's another smell that I can never get out of my brain. It's the smell of permanent. But my mom used to do, because she was a licensed beautician, although she didn't do that full time at the time. But on Saturdays, she'd have all these old ladies come over and they'd get their poodle cuts done. She'd do their poodle hair with this permanents. And so there was the ladies were coming over early, and then I remember my mom saying, oh, there's a guy at the door from UPS for you with something. I kind of snuck out of my my cave with a bunch of ones. And paid the COD. I think it was $12 for this set, or $12-ish. Like I said, that guy didn't charge me shipping either, which was crazy. And COD. So I remember getting this, paying the UPS guy, and going back to my cave. And I spent that whole morning putting this thing together and painting it. And I remember I had the taste and smell of paints. I don't believe I had Citadel paints yet. I think I'm still painting with testers and Partha paints. But I had those smells and those tastes. Now, you didn't want to eat even though I did, you didn't want to eat the tester's paint, because Partha paint was water soluble. It was essentially just acrylic paint. But tester's was an enamel. And enamel, as you know, you need a thinner to clean your brushes or to thin the paint. I used to eat that too. Not the thinner, but I would eat the paint off my brushes. I would dip it in that's why I can have the very distinct taste of enamel paint and thinner in my mouth. and I painted these things, and and my mom had these, like, this yarn or like this string that she would use for like these embroidery sets, and then she had like a goldish brown, and I remember going out and cannibalizing a length of that, and I used that for the drawstring on the man mangler there, and had the thing painted up perfect. And I was so proud of that thing, and so I had that. So that's my story on that one. I don't know if I told this story in the Dungeons and Dragons video, but I remember later, and there's another set that I'll show you that if I can find it that I had that I really liked. There was a skeleton warrior like chariot with skeletal horses and stuff. And I had all this stuff set up on the table in like the kids section, the youth section at the Rochester Public Library, the original one, not the new one they have now. And I was down there, and I had all this stuff set up, and I was looking at it, and I was showing my friends and stuff. I remember the librarian came over to me and got mad at me. She goes, "You got to put this stuff away. You're drawing too much attention. You know, this is a library. You know, you got to be quiet. You're here to read, not to play with these, you know, these things that you have." So it's everywhere you went. It was just always some woman trying to beat you down. But anyway, everywhere you went, you had people, you know, always not letting you, you know, do what you want. Drove me crazy. Still does. Anyways, yeah, I remember seeing that dragon. There was an ad in the Men magazine. Yeah, they had these dragons. This set was crazy. And then I'm getting closer to it. There's one more thing I want to show you that I think I'm going to come across. Oh, Blood Bowl. I'll get in Blood Bowl. I never really played, so I guess I don't really need to get into it. But this was about the time Blood Bowl was around, and they had the Dark Elves and stuff, and blah blah blah. But we should be getting into Eternal Champions was all the Elric stuff, which I didn't put 2 and 2 together at the time that was Elric stuff, and I knew about Elric stuff back then too. I think I just glossed over it. Yeah, the Melniboné, the Pantangian infantry, thinking of the band Tigers of Pantang. The Mighty Fortress, and it's weird. I remember this finally hitting a game store, and it blew my mind when I saw it. But I was actually from this catalog, and I must have seen it and just didn't pay attention to that. I don't know why I would. I mean, this stuff I totally would zero. I mean, it's to zero in on like the littlest details in these magazines. Okay, so we're back to 40K. Oh, so this is the 40K section. So we got the Imperial Guard. Like, again, remember, I'm looking for that one character. I believe he's in here. I wanted that one figure that was in the original ad that was in Dragon Magazine. I'm just trying to see if I can find him here. Because they were, yeah, Pirates and Adventurers. So he was considered a pirate and adventurer. I also the heavy weapons and all those weapons that were inside in the Rogue Trader rulebook. It's like, oh, you can get those as extras and blah 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 and mount them on stuff. Like I said, the stuff was just mind-boggling to me at the time. I mean, this was all new at the time. You know, I mean, there's kids that, years and years of kids that are painted this stuff and played, various, different editions of Warhammer and stuff. This stuff was all brand new right now. I mean, it was less than a year old. At least here in the States. I'm sure it was out in Britain. It was, you could find it. Oh, yeah, so then I started to see these medics. And there was an ad for medics, and they had one guy painted half white and half red. I thought that was so cool. There's also an orc, and one of the man mangler guys, I think like the guy, the captain, the chieftain, I painted half of his face and half of his white. And then I wanted to go to the Renaissance Festival and paint half my face white and half my face red, because I wanted to be cool, but be cool in a real geeky, esoteric way that only barely anybody get the reference. Where is that guy? I don't think I still haven't come across him yet. I mean, he was a mercenary, because there's that guy. I keep seeing that gray guy. Oh, anyways, so land speeders, all this stuff was like, what? And then your Space Marine blister packs, which they had to really. I loved the old blister pack packaging. It was so cool. It had like this red Blood Angel on it. It was really neat looking. But what blew my mind when I was going through here, though, was right there. When I hit the page on Eldar, And, you know, like I said, I was obsessed. I kept seeing those in the Rogue Trader book. And I said, what are these? These Eldar. I want to know what these are. They're space elves. I want them. And then I saw this book. Or sorry, this page in this catalog. And I came across these. And they blew my freaking mind. I was like, I got to have all these. It's like, oh. And then I realized they had Eldar blister packs. And then we started to finally see them. And actually, I think Joe's Hobby Shop, I took this down to Joe's Hobby Shop. I said, can I order these? And he says, yeah, all I need is a stock number. And the problem was, I think it's at the back of the book. I had to look up. They had, and they might not be in this PDF, but there was a list, a master list of just stock numbers. And you had to go through and you had to find every one of the blister packs. And the thing was, you did have the numbers on them, but you weren't sure exactly if you're going to get the right guy in it. And so I ended up ordering a few of the warriors. I never had these command group guys. I never ordered any of these guys, like the officers, the musician. I don't think I had any of these guys. But I did have, I think I had every single one of the warriors, which is the ones I zeroed in. Especially like this guy with the mohawk was one of my favorites. I loved this guy, and I wanted to paint them exactly how I saw them in the book. I wanted like that bluish, smoky bluish gray armor with I wanted the yellow helmets with the black stripes, the tiger stripes on it. I was very into the contrast. I loved like a dull contrast mixed with like a bright, you know, high contrast color, you know, primary color. I loved that. I loved the red and white face. I think I went somewhere and I did end up painting my face red and white for something. And this was one of my favorite guys. This was one of my favorite. I mean, all these guys were my favorite, but I had ones I liked better than the other ones. This guy with the big heavy gun. So I had all of these. You know, I painted them up. My buddy he was painting them at the time. I missed the story though. I got to tell you real quick. Let's see how much time we got. All right, we got plenty of time. So second semester of this would have been right about this time. Yeah, second semester of 9th grade, which is, you know, the winter of '88, winter and into the spring of '88. This is still more winter-ish. There was a kid in Mrs. Weaver's art class, and we had a table of kind of us. There was me, my one friend, my friend from Ruther. There was a couple other kids there, and we all kind of were into the same stuff relatively, but there was this one kid, and he looked like Jason Newsted from Metallica, and Jason Newsted was, I mean, he was just in that band at that time, so I remember when I saw a picture of Jason Newsted, I was like, hey, it looks like Arthur. This guy's name was Arthur. It looks like Arthur. And Arthur was British, but he lived here, and they had just moved here from Germany, because the dad was in the military, and he was, what do you call it? He was stationed in Germany for the longest time, and then they ended up coming to the U.S. for, I don't know what the reason was, but the dad wasn't with him. It was just the mom. He had a younger brother or younger sister and him, and they ended up staying over in downtown Rochester off one of the roads there. Off one of the roads, like you guys know what I'm talking about, unless you're from Rochester. Yeah, off one of the roads. Anyways, he lived there, and I remember going over. I walked to his house. I remember walking to his house one day from the trailer park. Seemed like a lot. It was when the weather started to finally break, and it started to become like, it was like 60-degree days. You know, the snow was gone. The trees were still bare and stuff. I remember walking down to. I remember the smells of that. Walking down the snake trail, which was paved now, but then it was dirt road, and walked down there to get to his house. I had to walk through downtown. And I went over there. Now he had thought this stuff was really cool, and he wanted to know more about it too. So I remember I took some, because I had all those Space Marines. I didn't have them all painted. We had a squad of like 6 painted out of the 30. And so I had a bunch more left. And so he wanted them. And he says, you want to just split up the set? He says, he goes, I'll buy some off you. Oh, he was trading. He trade some of them off me. So I said, sure, what do you got? So he ended up trading me a bunch of the Dungeons and Dragons, like the Master set, the Immortal set, and I think it was the Master and Immortal set. which at the time I thought I already had, but I guess not. I guess I had traded off some of my Dungeons and Dragons stuff, and I wanted it back, and he had. It's like seems to be an ongoing thing through my 50 years of life, is having something, getting rid of it, wanting it back, selling it, wanting it again, getting it back, selling it. I just need to just hold on to things. But he ended up trading me. So he got I think I gave him not all of the rest of them, because I remember me and my other friend from Ruther, we ended up having a few. But he goes, I want you to paint your best one up, and I want your friend, the guy from Ruther, I want him to paint the best one up. And whoever does the best job, I want you guys to make a squad of them for me. Because at the time, I gave him the book to read. He read the rules and figured out the game. He was the one that actually taught me how to play the game, because I couldn't figure it out. And he read the rules, and I remember sitting in his bedroom on his floor, and he had set up a bunch of books and stuff for terrain. He says, this is how you play the game. So I brought my 6 painted guys over, because at the time, you could do small, just squad-based, squad versus squad. I mean, you could do that now, but I mean, that was the way the game kind of was played, was these small skirmishes. Because it was kind of, Rogue Trader was in between a role-playing game and a tabletop miniature game. It was kind of mixed. So you could kind of do a campaign of this stuff. So we ended up playing a small skirmish in his bedroom, and so I've had the game for almost a year now, and I'm finally learning how to play the thing. And all that obsession and all that insanity, like I said, it was all just in my head. All those adventures and all that stuff was in my head. And so I took my guys over there. So anyways, we had this paint contest, kind of paint off, and Mrs. Weaver, the art teacher, she always put the glasses in here. She looked like Cyndi Lauper, but it was really like an old Cyndi Lauper, like a now Cyndi Lauper. It was very, very arrogant. She always talked down to everybody, putting her glasses on her nose and looking at what she did and go, so anyways, she was kind of caught wind of this little contest, and she was like, I want to see who does the better job of painting him. So anyways, I went home and I painted one of the guys for him, and I believe he was a sergeant. I thought I'd wow everybody up by drawing a sergeant, or painting a sergeant, having his helmet off, his beaky helmet off, and I wanted to give him the power glove, so I made sure they had one of the guys with the power glove. But the problem is I was out of black. I had no black left. So I couldn't really do any ink washes to really set the color in there. I couldn't mix any black in to darken some shades, to get to layer up and stuff like that. So the darkest color I had was a midnight blue, and I remember that because Lou Graham had a song right around the time called Midnight Blue, and I always thought of the paint and the taste of Ralph Partha Midnight Blue whenever I heard that song. I had midnight blue, and I had a dark brown, and so I thought to myself, so I went back to that picture, one of the Blood Angels, and they had the sergeant with the white hair and the red gloves and the red. I tried my best to copy that look, which I really liked. Apparently he didn't. This is something that I live with nowadays. Something I really like that I draw. Seems like nobody likes it. As soon as I draw something I'm not really that fond of, everybody loves it. But anyways, goes back to 9th grade. Same thing happened. He was like, He's like, do you own any black paint? And I go, I'm out of black. And he goes, yeah, it's very brown. I don't really like it. And I'm like, going, yeah, but I showed him a picture in the book. He's like, yeah, I don't really like those guys either. And I'm like, what? So Nathan, I give his winning away, my buddy from Ruther, he ended up showing me up because he had a jar of, or a pot, as they call it, in the miniature painting community. He had a pot of Tamiya acrylic, lime neon green, right? Now, there were never nobody ever painted any of the Space Marines in neon green, but he did. He painted up these neon green guy, and I think it was a guy with one of the guys with the rocket launcher, and he had black paint, and he went in and he put his ink wash in. That black ink wash over that neon green just looked amazing, and it was like a cool gray on the rocket launcher. He did an amazing job, and it just made mine look like shit. I mean, even if he did like that specific look of that character I really liked, I just didn't do it that good of justice because I didn't have the good paints. I didn't have the right colors to kind of match it. And, and he comes down, throws down that green guy, that neon yellowish green guy, and we're just like, oh my god. And he's like, right off the bat, he's like, yeah, this is a lot better than yours. And so it kind of deflated me, took the wind out of my sails, killed my mojo. And I don't think I think I ended up still painting. So I lost the art contest, and I still had to be the one to end up painting his squad of miniatures anyway, which I think I just painted them up just like I finally got the right color paints. Painted them up like the blue I had. And I remember I mentioned the midnight blue because that ultramarine color that I didn't know what the color ultramarine was at the time. The closest thing I had to it was the midnight blue, Relpart the midnight blue. So I ended up painting him that, and it looked dark. It didn't look as vibrant as that cool picture in the ad, on the back of the box. But he ended up. I think I ended up painting him for him anyways. I lost and had to do all the work. So, but I remember he taught me how to play the game. So I guess I owed him for that. He taught me how to play the game, and then of course my other friend who was smart and could read very well. I think he kind of got more into the game too, so he ended up reading the rules and figuring it out. Like I said, I couldn't. You had to teach me how to play the game because I was an idiot. I couldn't read the rules and figure out anything. I always had problems with that. I still kind of do. So we played the game, and we played it. I remember we played it. My friend from Ruth played it in his living room floor one night. I spent the night. We not living room, his bedroom floor, and we used the whole floor as this like battlefield. And ended up getting more miniatures. He got more miniatures. We ended up getting a bunch of these more. The other things I just want to mention here is, so this thing, and specifically this, the Banshee, this they called them dreadnoughts, right? Eventually they're called Wraith Lords now. But I thought this was the coolest. I was like, what is this thing? It's like, it's a robot or a mech. That's what I thought it was, and that's what I assumed it was. I didn't realize it was it was like a mechanical construct with the soul stone of a, and that might be 3rd edition, 4th edition rules. I don't think back in 1st edition that's what the concept was, because these were not. They mentioned dread, and there's a chapter on dreadnoughts in the Rogue Trader book. I'd have to go back and look, but I don't believe they necessarily mentioned Eldar dreadnoughts, like this war demon and all this stuff. I know they talked about the guns and whatnot, but like I said, this was, and then these weapons platforms. This is the first real. It's the end of the book. This is the real introduction I had to the Eldar and other things besides just the miniatures. And so Eldar have always been my favorite ever since. I mean, I love those Space Marines. I love that box set. I have lots of fond memories of it. Love that Ultramarine blue. I love those Blood Angels. However, I think at the end of the day, still my first love in Warhammer were the Eldar. I still like them the most. Still to this day, I like the Eldar. So that's the catalog. The other thing I want to just mention real quick, because we're coming up on 53 minutes here. Let's go to this. Actually, I'm going to have to move me out of the corner here. So this is a website called Stuff of Legend. If you know what it is, you know what it is. If you don't know what it is, it's a cool archive of stuff, specifically like the Citadel stuff, and they've got all of the stuff by numbers of all the different sets and blister packs and box sets of all of the original Rogue Trader stuff. And this is the section specifically on Rogue Trader. And this is a really cool resource. The thing that's neat on it too is I'll show you here. So let's go to 1987 Space Elves, Eldar, right? Right there. There's the, and this is the ad thing that would pop up in the magazine. And see how they're painted? That's how I wanted to paint them. And I think I painted that guy specifically, that blue. This is the color. I kind of like the gray, but I really wanted to go for this color here. Was this like bluish gray, kind of sky blue with this cool helmet. And, you know, to certain degrees, obviously I got some more black so I could do that. But that was what I was kind of going for. My friend, the guy from Ruther, he was doing my own like a purple motif, which was cool too. But I really wanted to kind of, you know, cover this look here. Maybe more so this. I think it was this. I think it's this photograph. I think is in the Rogue Trader book too. Yeah, but $2.95 got you 2 miniatures. I mean, that's back when things were normally priced. And they were all metal, too. There was barely any plastic miniatures, except for the main box set and some of the artillery stuff. Or was the other thing that was kind of neat to point out here? I mean, obviously you've got your Space Marines, your Space Marines by blister pack. Oh yeah, here's one of the this medic. This medic I thought was so cool looking. Oh, that's so cool with the black and the white and the red on the mask and blah blah blah. I thought there was still a half. One that was painted half and half. Because I remember doing up a version, getting a medic and actually painting him half red and half white. Somewhere in one of these ads. Anyways, so yeah, they give you the magazine, you know, the ads or the little full color pictures in this website. They give you so here's some of the that's the Space Marine Dreadnoughts. They give you you know, the catalog pages too, or pieces of the catalog page that corresponds to what they were. Oh, medics. So it's in the medics one. Oh, there he is, right there. Okay, so this guy right here. It was half red, half white. I just thought that was so cool. Like, I gotta totally do that. And it might have even had that specific blister pack. And then they started having standards and stuff, and I started to find some of the standard ones, which were really cool. How much time we got? Okay, let's kind of finish this out with two things. I could get into this website all day here, but just go check it out. It's Stuff of Legend. Just look up Warhammer 40,000 or Rogue Trader Stuff of Legend. It's, you know, SOL, so it's So Legends, stuffoflegends.com. And check this out. You'll see, like I say, here's all the Eldar stuff. Let's see, Eldar jet bikes, Eldar Warwalker. Here, Eldar Dreadnought. Oh yeah, so when I saw that, that blew me away. Like, oh god, I gotta do that. I really like the Bill Tan, the green and, you know, from 3rd edition, that when they started calling them Wraith Lords. But I like these older ones. I thought they were so cool looking. Okay, so last thing I want to mention here, because this would have been still this is summer of 1988. There was I remember, I think I talked about this comic book shop at this big sale where I got X-Men Annual number 9 at. So I went back to this with my dad one afternoon. And, anyways, I went to the back of the store, and I had some money to spend, and I wanted something. I didn't know what I wanted, and I had seen these in a magazine, but it's not specifically this ad, though. All right, actually, where's the actual box set of the one that I found? It's in this one. Do you see Harlequins? Yeah, right here. Yep, there it is. Okay, so, I thought this was the coolest thing in the world. I saw this and I was like, what are these guys? Oh, they're Eldar, but they're Harlequins? This is before Harley Quinn, the character, right? So, it's like, oh, they're like these jester kind of, you know, Harlequin. I mean, I didn't really know what Harlequin meant at the time, the Harlequin romance novels, but I just love the title, the Harlequins, and they had all these guys with they looked like, you know, like almost like characters on like a deck of playing cards, all these different patterns and designs. It does look like a dogfish bowl of, you know, dog throw up, but I mean, at the same time I loved it. But these guys, these death jesters, and I think they specifically called them the death jesters with these giant cannons. Oh, there's the back of the box set, and there they are right there, Death Jester. And they had a few of them in there. I think there's 3 Death Jesters that came in the box. Those guys were my absolute favorite. And I got this box at this comic shop. I remember taking it back and then calling my buddy and saying, you know what, I just got the Harlequin box set. And I think I ended up breaking this set up too. I think I ended up trading off some of this to my buddy from Ruther because he wanted some of these. And I said, hey, I'm going to keep the Death Jesters. I think I traded. I think he took him and him. He liked the guys with the swords. I think he took him and him. The one that looked vaguely like a female, he took her too. He took a few of these type of characters. I still had some of them left. I think I kept him and I kept him. But he wanted those ones. But I kept the Death Jesters. And so we broke the box set up. I mean, it could have just gone. This stuff is just like them Space Marines. It's like I treated it like it was gold, and it's just like, okay, you just spent $30 or $20 on a bunch of blister packs. You can just go buy another box. These things were easily to, once they were hit the stores, once you could finally get the stuff, so it was easy to get. So it's just like, why don't you just go buy another box set? Which I ended up doing later on. I ended up getting another set of Space Marines. But with these, it's just like, okay, if you wanted them so bad, why don't we just go buy another box? You know, I think I even thought to myself, why don't I just go out and buy a bunch of boxes and then I'll make sets of different ones up. But for me, after this, it was all about the Harlequins. You know, and there's some pictures in the magazine. You know, but this was the specific box I had, and I loved this box set. Loved it. I would say probably this was my favorite, even more so than the Space Marines box set. And I know, I think they're crazy expensive, and they're plastic. I think they're fine cast, too. You can get like a Death Jester and a couple of other ones nowadays, which, you know, I'd love to paint one of those up. But, yeah, this page really rocked my world. The other thing I wanted to mention, there's a box we got the following year after this, and I'll probably make a third edition to this, because there's, you know, I still have some things I can talk about if I can recall all of the instances with this stuff, but because there were, like, when the Rhinos came out, stuff like that, and some instance with Joe's Hobby Shop. It's just kind of interesting story I should tell you. But anyways, so my dad and I he used to be buddies with these guys down at Antique Paper in Oak Park, and like I said, my dad was at the time getting into the sports card business, and he was talking to these guys all the time, and he'd take me down to their shop, and, you know, they were talking and discussing stuff. I think he was picking up stuff that those guys had found for him at shows and everything to kind of build up his inventory. And so they're kind of cool, but they had a comic book shop, sports card shop, and they had this stuff. Well, they had it, and I don't remember the issue. They had an issue of White Dwarf magazine, and this would have been fall of 1988. Fall of 1988. This was right about the time. This is vaguely right about the time I started to get into anime because of Tora Tuesday. But I remember going down to Antique Paper with my dad. It was fall. I remember it was fall. Yeah, because I remember it was like right around Halloween time. And I said, Dad, can I get a magazine? He's like, I guess. So I got a copy, I don't know which one it was, of, obviously it was an 88 issue, of White Dwarf. And in the bottom of White Dwarf, they had this ad for a band. And they're called Bolt Thrower. Remember what I talked about before when they said Bolt Thrower? And they had this album. Let me show you the album first. So I had this. This is what I got. I got this at Harmony House, Berkeley. So it was this band called Bolt Thrower, and obviously they're using the same cover as the Rogue Trader, and they had Realm of Chaos, and they're using the exact same logo of the Realms of Chaos from Warhammer Fantasy, and it blew my mind. I was like, what is this? It's a heavy metal band. You know, they're from Britain. And it's like these guys, I thought these guys would be like the next Iron Maiden. I was like, I love these guys. These guys, I had never heard their music yet. It's an important part. I love these guys. I thought these guys were so cool. This ad for this band. Ended up going to Harmony House, Berkeley, and finding the cassette tape. Bought that specific cassette tape right there. Remember it vividly. Remember Bolt Thrower, Realm of Chaos lettering right on the tape. Took it home. I don't think I listened to it in the car. Took it home. Threw it in the tape deck, started playing it, and I was like, what is this? This is my first time I ever learned about what's considered called death metal, which I guess nowadays would be translated to nu metal, right? I could go into a whole episode on my opinions on nu metal and death metal. I was a very angry, angsty kid, right? Obviously, everything seemed to piss me off as a kid. I was very depressed and very, not suicidal per se, but I was very just angry all the time. Angry at everything. This music, you would think, because it obviously was popular, a lot of kids who thought like I did, you would think this music would have spoke to me. Look at the cover. You know, look at what the band's about. Look what the songs are about. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I was like, what is this shit? It literally, I feel like I was turning into an old man already. It felt like the episode of South Park, where all new music just sounds like the sound of people shitting, right? I was like, what is this? And I hated it. Couldn't stand it. I was like, God, but the covers are so cool. And then I was just like, this is such a neat, cool band, but I cannot like them. I could not listen to the tape. And so it's funny. I just talked to my one friend online, on Discord. I talked to him about a week ago or so. Actually, about this, I talked to him about a couple of weeks ago, and he said, you know what, I was going through a drawer, and I found a bunch of cassette tapes, and I think they're yours. Remember your Bolt Thrower albums? I went, I had another one. Don't ask me why I bought another one. I just wanted the cover. I hated the music. I just bought it because of the cover. But he found my Bolt Thrower tape, so and when I get down there next time, I'm going to go get my Bolt Thrower tapes from him, and I'll probably end up giving them to my son. He'll probably get a kick out of them. But I cannot stand this type. I love Iron Maiden. I love heavy metal. Love 80s heavy metal. I love that. I don't like the... I hate that. Like the... That's what I like the most. I like the super high, over-the-top, air raid siren, Bruce Dickinson screaming, or Rob Halford, or you name it. I don't like the whatever pitch shift, groany. I can't even understand what they're saying. And the music it's just like a wall of just sound of nothing to me. It's like I can't hear anything particular. There's no melody to it. I don't hear time changes. I don't hear key signature changes. I don't hear all the progressiveness I love of cool metal from the 80s. All I just hear is this wall of crap. And unfortunately, I guess there's a lot of douchebags out there that love that kind of music, and that's what's making the Lamb of God, Mastodon, Meshuggah. Oh God, I can't take any of those bands. They actually get me so aggravated. Actually, my blood pressure goes up. I don't like them that bad. Like I said, and it's a completely subjective opinion. I'm not trying to say I'm right, but to me, it's a knee-jerk reaction, and I can't not like that. Like I can't say, "Oh, just get over it," and it's cool. Grabbing my finger with a pair of pliers and trying to snap it off. I'm not going to just get over it. I'm going to have a knee-jerk, visceral reaction to the pain and torture of my ears when I hear that stuff. So that's all I got to say on that one. So anyway, right about this time I discovered this, and like I said, I wanted to love it so bad. I wanted to love it. There's the tape rolled out there. I wanted to love it so bad, and it wasn't happening. I actually pulled up the Wikipedia just because I wanted to see. Released in October 1989, so I don't think I got the... Okay, so that must have been an ad for this album being new. No, actually, no. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about this, if this is correct, it must have been 89. It must not have been 88. I must have got it in 89. Well, no, yeah, I would have... Yeah. I still think that I got to go back and see. But I'm still pretty sure, because my dad still lived out at the other trailer. He didn't move back into downtown Rochester, until 89. And I remember when we went to the antique paper, when we went back out there with that magazine with Bolt Thrower in it, I went back to the trailer park, so it must have just been an ad for this. I mean, it probably says the band's been around longer than that. Second studio album. Okay, so they probably were already around, and the ad was just talking about the new album, up and coming new album. But they didn't record it until July of '89, so it was a long time coming, apparently. I'll have to go back, and if I can find that ad, I'll pop it up one time and show you if I can find the ad in the old Dragon magazine, or the White Dwarf magazine, the one I found. I was going to go look for it, but I figured it would take forever, because I have to go through every magazine to figure out of that time, to find out that ad. But yeah, so that's my Bolt Thrower thing. So yeah, back to the Harlequin, something I did like. All this stuff was right about that time. So I've gone an hour and 10 minutes. So this is my part 2 to the Rogue Trader, the Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader. Just part 2, I guess, my sequel to it video. So I'll probably do another one coming up soon. But in the meantime, today is a Friday. This should air on Monday. I'll post this on Monday. So next week Snake Mountain did ship. I got a ship notification it shipped, so it's supposed to be here Tuesday, so I guess they're going to be right on the money. Oh yeah, also, just real quick, I'll do a video on it later, but there it is back there. That came early. That was supposed to come Monday, but there it is, the heavy metal soundtrack, double disc. I got from Discogs. I got it for $19.99, $6 in shipping. It's in perfect condition. The record, I haven't played it yet. The records look flawless. There's no ring wear. It's got all the original sleeves on the inside. The album's perfect. So I finally have another copy of it. I don't remember it being a double LP as a kid, but apparently it's a double LP. And that's first printing too, first pressing. So that's it. I've got it. I can add it to the collection. I can enjoy it now. So, well, I think I talked enough about it, but I might get into it more because I like to talk about some of the songs and stuff on a video. But so there's that. I haven't even done the. Do I have time for it? I'll bring this up on the next time if I remember because I'm going a little over. There's another record I found at the local record store that I wasn't expecting to find, and it's kind of odd because I've just been thinking about it, but I found another record that's down in the collection. Alright, so I will see you, this will be a Monday's posting, so, right? Yeah. So, I'll see you on Tuesday then, but I'll probably record, I'm probably going to record 2 videos, Tuesday and Wednesday's videos this weekend, and get them out of the way so I can get ahead of myself again. But yeah, remember to subscribe, help me build up these numbers. I see a lot of people are starting to jump on now, so, jump on, give me messages, whatever. Alright, I think I've talked enough, so I'm going to let you guys go. Alright, talk to you then. Bye-bye.